Hello, my name is Herman Rodriguez, and I'm here to show you my plugin for Substance Painter called Mask Batch Exporter. The way you get it installed is you'll download the zip file, and then once you're on Painter, make sure you're on the latest version. This version is 11.0.3, so if you're on that version, you should be able to see this. So if you go up here in the tab, you hit Reload Plugins Manager, you see how it went away. It should look like this for you. I had previously had it installed, so that's why it showed up for a second. But if you hit Reload Plugins folder and then go to the Plugins folder, inside the Plugins folder here, it should take you straight to the directory that Painter wants the plugins to go into. You click on the zip file and you just extract it, extract the folder here. So once you've done that, you go back into Painter, and then up here you just hit Reload, and then just make sure there's a check mark up here under the Mask Batch Exporter. If it's check marked, that means it's working. So you go to File, Mask Batch Exporter, and then this is what the tool looks like. So you give it an FBX folder directory. So this is where you have all your FBXs that you want to batch process. The name of the subfolder that'll get created within that folder. So mine is named masks. I'm using this for the purpose of making masks. The target texture set. So let's say you have an asset that has multiple texture sets. If you're making masks for a certain type of material, like metals, right? Like you wouldn't want rust grunge type effects showing up on your wood. So this way you can isolate it, and you can rerun the same script in the same directory, because the way the names are named are based upon the texture sets. So it should be safe to do that. But in this case, I have set to metal, but also have process all texture sets in each project. So it's going to ignore what I have targeted here, and just whatever the file has is going to process it. And then here you give it the smart material name. Make sure you have the smart material already in place. It's not going to generate one for you. So I can quickly show you mine. I'll go to smart materials. Oh, let me open up a template real quick, or a sample. All right, so with this sample, all I have is red, green, and blue color fill channels. And what I'm doing is within the masks, this is where I'm applying the certain effects. I was just quickly doing that using the preset libraries that Substance comes with and just applying them here. You just have to make sure that your green and blue channel, if you're following exactly how I'm doing it, is set to linear dodge. Just make sure that when the colors get overlapped on the final export, there's no weirdness going on. It's going to be straight color. Yeah, so you just set up the masks for whatever effect you want, right? Depending on the type of material, you might want different types of grunge. And yeah, I mean, this is all from the default file, but it's called Quick Mask, and that's how I made it. You just put everything into a folder, right click. Where is it? Create smart material. Sorry, I shouldn't say smart masks because those also exist, but this is a smart material. But once you've done that, as long as you name it exactly what you want it to be when you call it in the tool, it should work. So in this case, I had two versions. I have a metal version of my quick mask, and that's what I plugged in here. So it's going to use that smart material to generate all the masks that I need. So here you can choose the resolution of your project, and then the normals format. This is only if I guess you're not using masks. If you want to just batch process a smart material, because it doesn't have to just be mask. You can also output color and stuff like that. It's just for my purposes, I'm using it for masks. But I expose this so that if anyone wanted to use it for that purpose, they could. And the bake output size, I know sometimes, at least I prefer to bake at slightly higher resolution so that I get more detail out of my bakes, so that when I use my smart masks, they look a little better. So I expose this option too. And some of the default mask bake settings are here. And they'll use low poly as high poly mesh just to get some better normals. This post insert weight. During my testing, I noticed that certain smart materials were a little heavier, and sometimes it would fail to actually process them. So I added a weight to make sure that Substance has enough time to apply the smart material to the asset. So if you're running into that issue, you might want to increase this time. And then the export template name. So this is it has to be the exact name or else it's going to not work. You can use any of the default templates or your own. Just make sure it's named correctly here. And then the mesh maps you want to bake. So depending on what you're outputting, you might want some more or less, right? These are the default ones, so I left them as that. And then there's remember these settings just in case you want to keep running through the script. So I'll just run it just so you see what it looks like. It's going through my folder right now. I have a test asset in there just to show you how it works. And right now it's baking out all the maps. And while that's happening, I'm going to navigate to the output directory. So I had it set to my folder I had in my documents. You can put it wherever you want, obviously. This is just for testing purposes. Default scenes. Okay, so these are the FBXs that I put in here. And then this is the mask. As you can see, it gave me 4 masks for all the different meshes I have in there. It also depends on what template you're using. So in my template, actually, it looks like I'm only using the name of the asset and then the underscore base color. So if I were to use multiple texture sets within this file, they would override each other. So just make sure whatever template, output template you use, you have it distinguished, or maybe add the texture set within the name of the output just so you don't overwrite. Yeah, so with these maps, you can do a lot of cool things. I have set up a quick test scene in my Unreal. And here it is. So I'm using layered layered materials to basically drive a lot of what you're seeing here. What's cool is you can get a lot of resolution for how low these maps are. Like I'm blending in some noise on top to make it look more more defined, I guess. But my outputs are 1024 by 1024, and if you look at these outputs, it looks a lot sharper than that. So it's really cool what you can do when you're utilizing masks. The idea is like basically what you're doing within Painter, but you can do it in Unreal. And yeah, it's really cool. And that's the purpose of this workflow, is just to get some really nice maps so that you can drive a lot of fancy sets or material sets within Unreal or whatever software of your choice. But I can quickly show you how easy this workflow is, or the purpose of this tool, right? So I downloaded this carport. I downloaded off Substance Assets. So I never modeled. I mean, I didn't model this, but just for demonstration purposes. I also grabbed this cabinet. And the way I have my UV setup and my material setup is that the first UV set has everything in the 0, 1 space, and the second UV set has everything to a certain texel density. That way, when I apply my materials, they all look uniform regardless of the size of the asset or whatever. So in this case, I'm just going to combine everything for quickness sake. And then I'm going to go to the UVs. Luckily for me, these UVs all fit in the 0, 1 space. All I have to do is copy these. Then in my second set, I just have to establish my texel density. And that should be it. So Substance usually reads the first UV set when creating maps. I've had a time where it didn't do that, but most of the time, the first UV set is what it uses for baking purposes. So you should be fine just doing that. So let me just export this in that same area where all my other exports were at. Sorry, I'm looking over here off screen, but oh, you have to make sure, let me clear my history and phase transformations, but you have to make sure that the material that you have on here is your texture set. So in my case, I want it to be metal. So I'm going to name it metal. So then I want to export this asset it has the correct texture set that Painter is looking for. All right. Cabinet. And now, honestly, what I can do is just rerun the script. It shouldn't matter. I could have deleted the other assets, but for the sake of quickness, I'm just showing you how quickly I can get these masks done. And then what I'll do is I'll drag that asset into Unreal with that mask that I generated. I'm just going to throw it in here, just be fast about it. Import, okay. So if I throw this in here, and make another instance of this material by duplicating it, it should be fine. Okay, and then I'm going to bring in the mask I generated for it over here. Obviously, you want to organize this the way you want when you're setting this up correctly, but just for the sake of the tutorial, I'm showing you how to do it real quick. So just making sure my compression settings set to masks. I don't want any, S-curve being applied. And then within my material instance worn metal details in here, I have my material stacks. So I have a rust, like a more rough metal, and then like a cleaner metal. So in here, if you're familiar with material layers, you know that there's a blend in between all these. And in my blend is where I have my masks being called. So in here, I just have to specify this, and it should work. If not, I'm lying to you. Oh, there you go. See? So the scale of the grunge and everything is the same as to what the asset behind it is, which is what's really cool about this workflow. Obviously, depending on your material or your shader, you can set it up so that you can do some additional vertex painting to have more control. In my case, I have a lot of like twists and knobs in my material, but this isn't to showcase my material. It's just to showcase this masking tool. But it's really cool to get really quick iteration for assets using the masks. If you have any questions about this tool or my workflow, I can go into further detail with maybe another video, but for the sake of this tutorial on how to use my mask batch exporter, that's how you use it. Hello, I just wanted to add this real quick to the end of my video. I noticed there was a bug with my script where it was baking my maps at 32 by 32, but it's been fixed now. So if you hit run, you should do the proper work, and it shouldn't use only 32 pixels by 32 pixels to bake a map. So what you'll see is when I bring back this mask that I'm pumping out for the cabinets, it should look a lot sharper. But see, the way that I made I was blending noise with my mask, it's kind of hard to tell within Unreal, but it wasn't until I watched the video back that I realized that those issues were happening. So we go back to Unreal. If I just re-import this, there you go. The edge detection should be a lot better since it's using more detail to get those masks. But yeah, honestly, it's not too much different from what I pumped out, but there's like very subtle like rust details like on the edges, because I was using like over here you can kind of see it in my mask, because I was using I think curvature is the map you use to get edge details, and I applied certain effects on top and then made that, I think, my green channel. So that's how that's happening. But yeah, it's a really, really cool way to get layered materials, and it looks very high res on me having to pump out 4K, textures for every single asset. So yeah.